Welcome to the High Tech Freedom Podcast. This is a podcast where we bring successful tech sales professionals, thought leaders, and entrepreneurs to share best practices, insights, and lessons learned with other tech sales professionals. As a sales professional, the more we learn, the more we earn. Once we earn it, how can we put those hard-earned commission dollars back to work to build additional income streams that will create the freedom we are all working to achieve? I'm your host, Chris Freeman. I'm a high-tech sales leader, real estate investor, and lifetime learner. Well, welcome to the High Tech Freedom Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Freeman. And for our next episode, I'm excited to have Jason Braun, who is a seasoned networking and security sales pro. So Jason was actually referred to me by another guest, so I'm really looking forward to learning from him. Welcome to the High Tech Freedom Podcast, Jason. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me, Chris.
Pleasure's all mine. Why don't you tell my audience a little bit more about yourself and your background in tech sales?
Sure. So I got in tech sales about 24 years ago, just on a whim. I had a few friends in the industry. I actually, what most people don't realize, because it's been so long, I have a degree in mathematics. I was actually coaching high school baseball. As I was finishing up school, played college ball myself, thought I was going to be a teacher and coach, and stumbled into technology sales through some mutual friends and family that had been in the industry, and really fell in love with it. And, 24 years later, here I am. There's not much in technology I haven't sold, from my initial inside sales job of selling fax servers to network and infrastructure. I spent most of the first half of my career in software and application monitoring and availability, and then the last 10 years in the cybersecurity aspects. So have seen quite the change, all the way from software, infrastructure, and tech and cyber for the last 10 years, which the innovation, one of the things that I love about tech sales is just the constant change, innovation. Having a degree in mathematics, there's still that pseudo geek in me, and there's no better industry than tech sales.
Well, man, now I'm curious. So, as a mathematics major, what did you think you're going to do with that degree as you were going through it?
I thought I was going to teach and coach. I basically walked away from a high school teaching and coaching opportunity to try tech sales. It's, my passion. It's probably, why I always fall back into leadership is because, that coaching and mentoring aspects of, what's in my DNA. Mm-hmm. So, technology sales has given me an opportunity to, give back in a different way, right? I still look at it, a lot of it as teaching, right? Just like I did, 20 plus years ago before getting into this industry. But, obviously there's some financial aspects and other things for, personal reward that you get out of it, which, it's hard to walk away from once you get established in this industry.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. I actually just within my own territory over the years, I've known a few ex-high school coaches that were technology sales reps, and there was what they loved to do, and then there's what paid the bills, and it made a little bit more in the technology sales role.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny you say that because I think I fell in love with this, to be honest, right? Because being in athletics since I was 4, playing at an extremely high level in several sports. That competition aspects of it, that work ethic, right? The desire to be better than the person next to you. But yet, I think what most people fail to realize is sales is a team sport, right? You can be an all-star, but it takes a great team to reach the ultimate goals and to maximize the opportunities, put in front of you. Right. Yeah. And, I think great leaders, great athletes see that. And, that translates into what you and I have been doing for decades. Right. So I don't see much difference outside of just the physical aspects of it, right? So, there's still the strategy, there's still the game plans. It's still, hey, what is what is your competition doing, right? What's the referee, i.e. your customers, thinking about what's going on in this battle? So to me, there's a lot of synergies. I use a lot of sports analogies as part of my game plan because, a lot of it is motivation, right? And a lot of it is just, getting the most out of your skill sets and the opportunities in front of you.
Yeah. Yeah. Had an opportunity to interview somebody that played Division I football. And he talked a little bit about the discipline of going through high school and then, the elite levels of collegiate football and sports. There's a certain amount of discipline that just gets not beat into you, but it gets conditioned into you every single day. And he talked about how he took that into his sales role, and that helped him a ton. And I imagine as a leader, you probably have an opinion on, discipline and how that can help the salesperson be successful.
Yeah, I mean, I think discipline, I like to call motivation, right? That self-motivation of, what gets you up in the morning, what's driving you. There's a lot of things that can help you through different stages of your life. I know, it's changed for me over the course of my life, from being a 25-year-old, with my newly expense account flying all over the country to now a father of two and married, and all that good stuff. Your motivation changes, but that discipline, and when you talk about sports, there's a very important, I think, a statistic that most people, I didn't even know about it until recently, that only 7% of athletes actually play any form of college sports. Right. So that 7% to, just like you've mentioned, it carves a desire, a motivation, a work ethic in a lot of people. And I would say, it really shaped my life, right? And my expectations of, not only myself, but the people I surround myself with, right? At that team, because, I know I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for a lot of support, a lot of mentoring, a lot of coaching, guidance, right? That, from my vantage point, I always like to pay it forward, right? As much as you can, and maximizing even the opportunities in front of us today, which, I think you and I are pretty blessed at this stage of our careers. We have more opportunities than we've ever thought we'd have. And, how do you, one, maximize that for ourselves and our family, but then two, how do you do it for the better good and, for as many people that cross your paths as possible?
You mentioned the concept of it's a team sport as you were talking about the sales role. And can you expand on that a little bit? I mean, if you're just a sales rep, where does the team come in?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny you say that, right? I mean, most people don't look at it that way, but even when I make changes and go through new interview processes, I try to get people to understand that viewpoint, right? The very first person you think about in technology sales specifically is your solution architect or your sales engineer, your partner in crime of who's helping you, through the technical aspects of what you are positioning and selling, right? So, the easiest, form that most people can relate to is that dynamic, right? And in some cases, and I'm guilty of it. I would, as an individual contributor, I would spend more time with that person than I would with my own family, right? They become, kind of my second spouse of sorts. So that's, I think that's one aspect of it. But now you've got marketing and branding, right? Of, hey, what does your company represent? What solutions, what problems are they solving? And especially in today's world, as you well know, it is tremendously different than how we started 20 plus years ago, where, we would walk around with our in-focus projector machines and give product demos. And that was really the first time they ever saw our product. In today's world, they are seeing online demos. They are seeing chat boards. I mean, they know more about our products than ever before we even get in contact with a prospect or a customer, right? So the branding and marketing is even more important. And then ultimately you got, your product's got to work, right? And, the whole back office of, product management and how do you prioritize, feature requests and enhancements and delivering a stable and solid product, right? So, so when you think about, sales gets a lot of the credits. We also, as you well know, there's a scoreboard in our industry. We get scored every 90 days, whether we like it or not. But at the end of the day, it's a team sport, right? All of those pieces need to be working together in unison. And when you find that, that's where you and I have both had some incredible careers, and we've always had those, those 2-3 jobs are like, God, you're always trying to get back to those. And that's when it's all working together, right? I mean, for me personally, my first one was at Quest Software, 6-year run. I mean, it was early in my career. I was blessed. There was a lot of like-minded folks there, but we had great products, great culture, and, it was amazing, right? And then, you always try to find something that can beat that. And, I've been fortunate enough to have, 3 of those myself. And, it's blessed, right? And you're always trying to recreate that, and especially as a leader, how do you maintain and create that culture, and especially at scale, because that's always the hardest thing, is doing it at scale.
Yeah. Yeah. The one thing you didn't mention, which you see in the bigger companies nowadays, is there's always a number of different roles of specialists and overlay reps. And, like you take a company like Cisco or VMware or any one of those, even probably Salesforce, but how many different divisions they have for product specialties. Maybe it's an acquisition or something new, but and I happen to lead a team of a specialist today, and the ones that can figure out how to pull all of those people into your team and kind of run forward in alignment with a consistent strategy, man, those people hit it out of the park. It's how you get exponential growth in your performance numbers.
Yep. Yeah, I think you nailed it on the head, right? The larger ones, it's even more difficult, right? But I would think more is even more critical. My first leadership job, I was an specialist leading a specialist team across the country, right? And to that point, right? How do you get everybody bought into what you're selling, and vice versa, right? How do you become an extension of the other teams? And as you look through it, those folks that have that ability to pull people together, to make them think in a similar mindset and solve, what the problems that are in front of them. I mean, those are the ones that maximize opportunities, right? Those are the ones going to club and being on, white sandy beaches, every year. I mean, to the points, right? My wife expects to be have a free vacation every year. And if God forbid, those years that we don't get it, it's like, what happened, right? Yeah. Because it's a team sport, and even the family gets into it, when you're doing it right.
Yeah, I could use a white sandy beach right now. I got some snow in my backyard.
It's pouring down here in SoCal as well. So the sun would be nice.
Well, Jason, I'm curious. So you've been in the security sales role for the last 10 years. How does selling security differ from some of the other technology items that you've sold?
It's in any business class, there's 3 buckets, right? It's top line revenue, bottom line cost, and risk is that third bucket. So for the most part, I would say, 10 years ago when I got into it, it was much more of a compliance driven need to have around risk aspects, right? And it really was not as predominant. What you are seeing today, because of the proliferation of what's happening, right? You can call it digital transformation. Bad guys are getting, even better at their craft. There's a lot of variables in what we're doing. So cyber today, hits all 3 buckets, right? So when you think about it, if somebody, holds your ransom, ransomware is in the news every single day. I mean, you are shutting down a business. Right. Unfortunately, I've been personally involved in a few hospitals that have been in this situation where cancer patients can't get treatment. Right. So, so it's not only, revenue lost, and in their case, hundreds, if not billions of dollars lost in revenue, it's actually lives being lost. Right. So it has fundamentally changed over the past decade. which, makes me even more passionate about what I do, and why, I stay in cyber. While technology is expanding everywhere, as you well know, you've been in this space, cyber to me is hit home in the sense that, hey, bad guys are getting better. It's becoming more and more predominant. The innovation and what is changing to drive innovation is just made security that much more complex. Mm-hmm. And we're here to try to solve it, right? And we got to do it together. And to me, cybersecurity, to that team sport, it's the ultimate team sport, right? I mean, IT's got to be working with security, app dev, DevOps. I mean, you name it, right? I mean, security should be a byproduct of what we are delivering to the market that drives, business value. Obviously, it's driving costs out of the business, as you well know, with, the agility of what we have in the cloud today and just operational efficiencies, but that risk model, right? And, to me, we've started by, the FUD value, right? Fear, uncertainty, and doubt. But now it's transcended into, true business value, right? And most organizations today, especially I'll just say Fortune 5,000, not even, 500, but the 5,000, they know exactly how much cost, and revenue is lost by minute, by hour, if and when, a so-called ransomware or any type of outage happens, right? So to answer your question, it's evolved, right? I mean, it is, and that's one of the main things that I love to do is, stay on top of it, try to perfect my craft and share that change, with the next generation, because how you and I did it, 10, 20 years ago is not how we do it today. And you have to evolve with the times.
Yeah. I'm curious, just shifting gears a little bit, curious to get your opinion on something. So, we've had this Log4j exposure out there now. And what I've seen in social media or LinkedIn specifically is like every vendor has got their hand up going, oh, we've got a solution, we can sell you this or we can sell you that. And I don't know, if I'm a customer, that's sort of not what I want to be hearing as I'm in the middle of I've got to go in, and now I was golfing with a guy and he just spent 4 days at the hospital, like 10 hours a day, going in and patching systems. Yep. The last thing I want to hear from a vendor is, oh, we can sell you some new technology to fix it. As a sales pro in that space, how would you handle that?
Yeah, I mean, I call it the ambulance chasers, right? There's always going to be that aspect of it. I look at it just fundamentally as education, right? As, you may have a solution, but how people are addressing Log4j as an example, or several, and I've talked to a handful of CISOs just to educate myself, right? One, how prevalent is it in their environments? Mm-hmm. Two, how they are addressing it. And everyone I've asked is fundamentally different. Right. So the frustration part that I get is when someone says, yeah, we can solve that. Well, you haven't even asked the question of how has it affected them? Mm-hmm. Right. And, security programs, your appetite for risk is fundamentally different by organization. So to me, it's, you should be asking the question, how can I help? Right. And what is wrong? And, it's something that I've implemented, especially, with, I would say, earlier in career folks, right, and mentoring. I call it the rule of 5. And people always laugh. And I said, well, do you have children? And I always love to use this analogy because, having 2 children myself, it rings so true, is ask 5 questions, right? Just ask 5 questions before you make a statement. And very simply, the analogy is having a kid is, when you tell your son or daughter saying, hey, don't do that, and they ask you why, and then you got a great answer, they ask why again. Well, by the 5th time they say that, you're either going to have an adult conversation, depending on the topic, or you're going to say, because dad told you so. Right. Because you really get, to the core of the problem. And in the business world, what that means is you get to the $1 million problem. You get to truly what is keeping them up at night, because Log4j may be on systems that are completely not critical to the business. And yeah, it's a royal pain in the backside because they've, to your point, 4 days, right? And that's, so I mean, I'm hearing folks that, still, what are we, a month into this, still patching systems, right? It's much more of an inconvenience than it is the actual risk of their business. So my recommendation is just ask 5 questions. Figure out what's their true pain. And what you'll probably hear is, 8 out of 10 of them, Log4j is not even in the top 5. That's the sad part, right? As prevalent and as widespread as Log4j is, it's not even in most people's top 5, right? That's the scary part, right? That's the part that we're all trying to help, is trying to stay one step ahead, because guess what? It's going to happen. New Year's is right around the corner. That's when everybody hits, is during the holidays. There's going to be another one, next week. God forbid what that name is. And it's going to be a continuous thread, unfortunately. Right.
Yeah. Hello, sales pros. I hope you are enjoying the High Tech Freedom podcast. If you are interested in learning more about passively investing in multifamily real estate, you can download our educational ebook at hightechfreedom.com. While there, you can also sign up for our newsletter, where we will provide insights on real estate investing, as well as sales tips, so that you can continue to crush it in your high-tech sales role. Now, I often hear people say, I'll get to that later, or I'll read that book later. Well, there's no time like the present to improve your knowledge, so I hope you take advantage of at least the newsletter. In the meantime, please reach out if I can help out in any way. Now let's get back to the show. Well, hey, listeners, listen up, because there's something that Jason said there that you have to take into consideration is, as salespeople, you want to go ask for something. But before you ask, you have to give value. You have to give something first. Otherwise, you're not solving the right problem. You're not providing any value. So be thinking, what value am I creating before I ask for anything?
Yeah, you nailed it on the head, right? I mean, for to gain trust, especially in the security world, which are so inundated with folks like us knocking on their door, asking to help, you got to build that trust, right? And so what are you going to give them? Right? You got to give them something for at least for them to even listen to you, to be honest.
Yeah, agreed. Well, so shifting gears a little bit. So you've been a direct seller and led teams.
Yep.
And, we've touched maybe on some of this already, but what separates the top performers from the rest of the pack?
I think, we hit on one of them, which I think is so imperative, right? Is, being able to, be a great teammate. And when I say that, there's plenty of folks that are not great teammates that are still very successful in this business. There's no perfect recipe of how to get it done. To me, that's why I love this, this sport. I call it a sport, for the most part of reaching our goals. But, for those, to me, the very top of its class do one of two things, right? They're great teammates, but most importantly, they are giving, right? They're the ones that are constantly helping their customers, even in bad times, right? And I equate it to this. I say this to my customers, my partners, even in my personal life, is I measure my partnerships in bad times, not good times. How are you going to treat me when my hair is on fire, when Log4j, as an example, is going crazy? And are you actually going to help me, or are you going to be the one with their hand out, trying to take advantage of the situation, right? And, when I think of it in my personal life, right? I mean, we all goes through ups and downs. God forbid it's not all roses. Who are the friends that are calling me up saying, hey, what are you doing tonight? Do you need to go have dinner, go have a drink? Do you need to talk? Those are the folks that you surround yourself with. Those are the folks that not only have great years, they have great careers, right? Because they're going to have customers for life and not just have one blowout year and the one hit wonder, so to speak. So those are the traits that I think just fundamentally, when you look in the past, the ones that I've admired from not only an individual contributor, even leaders, is they will do everything they can to make sure that their customers, their team, their organization all make it through the toughest of times.
Yeah, that's interesting. I have a rep on my team, and he had a customer tell him, I think this was at maybe a football game in the suite. He goes, John, the reason I like working with you, and they've had a long relationship, is you're still calling me when I'm not buying. Yep. Right? You're still there. You're still adding value. And, then when it does come time for a project or address a problem, he always has a seat at the table.
Yeah, that's, perfect. There's another specific example that I have. Gentleman that was earlier in his career, and he comes up and he goes, Jay, I'm just struggling with this customer, right? I think we have a good relationship. We talk on a regular basis, but I just, he's not getting it. And I looked at him and I said, hey, bud, I go, have you ever taken him to lunch and not talked about work? I said, just don't talk about work. I go, talk about his wife, talk about his kids. Like, what does he do outside of work? And he looked at me funny, like, man, I'm crazy, man. And he's like, you hired me to sell stuff and do all this. And I'm like, just try it and come back, right? It's a $20 lunch. 2 weeks later, he comes back, Chris, and he has the biggest grin on his face. And I'm like, uh-oh, what's going on? And he just goes, Jay, he goes, I can't believe it worked. He goes, now the guy calls me back all the time. He goes, and it's just, I go, yeah, because he knows you're a human. He knows that you actually have an interest in his life and what he's doing. And I go, when you do that, you've changed the paradigm. You still need, as soon as you and I walk into a room, they know we're there to sell them something. Yeah. We don't need that. That's a given. But it's who walks out of that room that's gained that trust, that's gained that human element of, hey, they're actually here to help me, are the ones that are going to win more than they lose. No, but then, you win because the rest of the team, you still got a product that works and all the other good stuff. But, who's going to get the benefit of the doubt is the one that they generally care, they feel that cares and has their interest at heart. And your example and my examples, I think, are perfect to highlight that.
Yeah. And by the way, I think, if you're a seller out there, this is something that you need to start working on right now, because you've been selling behind a Zoom screen for 2 years. You probably haven't had a great opportunity to sit there and break bread with your customers and build those relationships. And so I think that maybe the difference between the top performers in the next 2022 and the ones that are not, are the ones that, if you're comfortable with it, you probably can't get into the customer's office, but get out, have a breakfast, have a lunch, have a dinner, take them to a ball game. And you probably need to work on getting good again at, that face-to-face relationship building. And that will separate you from the rest of the pack. I feel really strongly about that. And it's something I encourage my team members to do as soon as they're comfortable doing it.
Yep. No, absolutely. Right. And finding the ways to bridge that gap until people are comfortable doing it. Right. Not everybody is. But, at the end of the day, even if you're working from home, those guys are still working 4 straight hours, 4 straight days, patching Log4j, right? Yeah. And so, they still want to have a friend, an outlet, right, that understands what they're going through. And so you're there for them even during bad times.
Well, let's shift on. So the theme of the podcast is, you first need to learn from the best in order to earn like the best. And then once you earn it, how do you take those hard-earned commission dollars and redeploy it to build additional income for the freedom that we're all looking for? So I am curious to hear from you. Once you earn those hard-earned commission dollars, what do you do with it?
I'll buy as many boats and useless things as I can. No. From my vantage point, I've always been a builder, right? And so I looked at real estate as a fundamental driver, right? And investments, right? So I still have a very healthy portfolio, retirement, right? So I think the very fundamentals, very beginning, before we were making any money, is, as simple as maximizing 401ks. I still scratch my head of, peers that you and I, have been here doing decades, still haven't done that basic aspect of maximizing a 401k.
You mean to get the match?
Yeah, the match, it's tax deferred, right? There are so many different benefits to a 401k, right? But from my vantage point, it was always invest, right? It's a matter of cash flow. And, when you have those great years, is where do you invest that to, quote unquote, save for a rainy day? So from my mentality, has been, I have never sold a piece of real estate. And, while I have a few rentals, I haven't been, as proactive as you and a few other of my peers in that side of it. It was much more about building, for my family, right? And making sure that God forbid I have a bad year, that, hey, I could, be able to live and survive, for years to come. And from my vantage point, my whole operational model is I live on my base salary. Mm-hmm. All of my commissions go to one of two things, either investments and or two, the one thing that I will always do is we call them adventures in my house is, we plan vacations, right? Because of the sacrifices you and I make of being away from our families, whether it's on Zoom calls, whether it's traveling back, but pre-pandemic, to me, having those quality time and actually having something for the family to look forward to together are the two things that I've always, took at the top of my list, and nothing will get in the way of doing those things. So, from my vantage point, real estate has enabled me to do that. I can't even, if I had to buy my own house today, without any of the other previous investments, there would be no way in heck. We were fortunate. My wife, when baby 2 came, was able to stop working, all because of the investments, paying it forward, right? Investing that aspects. And real estate, from my vantage point, has always been the second piece. As you all know, a lot of our peers have beautiful cars, and I love to ride in them and drive them every once in a while. But having depreciating assets literally makes my hair turn grayer than it already is. So I pay cash for my cars. I literally, there's only one car I haven't paid cash for. It's because they gave me a 0% interest loan. I was like, dude, it's free money. So I'll go and, take it somewhere else and, make more money. Other than that, to live within your means and pay it forward, right? Those are the things that I've done, right? Is investments. I've been fortunate. I've been able to invest in early stage companies, because it's, that's kind of what I do today is, I'm still advising, startups and early stage companies on top of my day job. And, trying to help folks do the same thing, right? Not everybody likes real estate. Not very many people like, quote unquote, being a landlord. But I think there are ways to mitigate that. But the financial benefits of it, for me, it's been amazing. When I look on paper of, the assets that I've been able to accrue over the past 20 years, I even surprise myself and go, wow, you've done pretty good. And I'm fairly conservative. So.
Yeah, I know. When I started, I was always looking for investments that could generate some additional income or some additional cash flow. And real estate wasn't the only thing that I looked at, but that's over time, I definitely put more of my emphasis on that. And I read a quote one time, it was from Warren Buffett, that said that if you don't find a way to make money while you sleep, you'll work until you die. And so that always kind of resonated in the back of my mind is, I don't mind working because I like it. But I also, at some point when I leave, I don't want to just start drawing down on the 401k. I want to have something that's spitting out dollars. So, I can maintain the lifestyle and go take the trips and travel and do, golf, do whatever it is that I want to do.
Yeah, my saying is similar in nature, but when I'm on the white sandy beach and just enjoying the adventures with my family, I still want to be making money, right? So how do you do that, right? That passive, it's all about passive income. Well, because if you look at the inflation rates and you look at what the cost of living is going to be, even when you and I are, decide to shut it down, even a 401k for most people and plus Social Security, it's not going to cut it, right? Especially, I'm blessed to live in Southern California. It's not cheap if I'm going to stay here, right? So, So to your point, finding the passive income, I have just found real estate to be consistent. And for my kind of taste of risk, when I read reports and doing all my analysis, do I put in the market? Do I do the day trading, which I used to do quite a bit earlier in my career? It's just like, no, it's proven every 10 years, the housing market never goes down at any period. Right. And for all of us who went through the 90s and then the financial crisis of 08 and 09, I mean, you look at, the housing value has all skyrocketed since then.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So nobody's lost any money if you stuck it out.
Yeah, there's a great article. If any of you subscribe to the Wall Street Journal, especially the online version, I think it was December 23rd or December 24th. Then drop me a note. I can send it over to you. But it was a really good article about finding the right balance of assets in your retirement portfolio and how more analysts and professionals are recommending to get a larger shift of assets like real estate that can generate that additional income versus just drawing down on your stocks. So really good article. It talks about the pros and the cons of all of the different aspects of investing, but drop me a note if you want to get it. And you can also go to our website at hightechfreedom.com. And we have an ebook on there on just passively investing in real estate. You can download that or just reach out to me if you want to chat more about that. Jason, as we wrap it up, is there anything else that you'd like to share with the sales audience?
No, I mean, I think in general, no matter what stage of your career that you're in, my challenge to each and every one of you is be better today than you were yesterday, right? Constantly challenge yourself to just be better, or whether that's a better sales rep, better husband, better friend, whatever that is. Always look at it as an adventure, right? It is a journey. Unless you're fortunate enough to win the mega millions and the lotto at some point, it is about the journey. It's going and putting in that effort and being consistent in those goals and getting better, I think is where I would challenge each and every one of you to focus, right? And focus on yourself versus, all the chaos around you. Because the more success you have, the more chaos you will bring to yourself, because, for multiples of reasons. People want to duplicate what you do. It's an ultimate form of flattery. But, number two is everybody wants to be a part of something great. So, but challenge yourself. If you're like me, I have a whiteboard over here on the side of me, with all of my to-dos. I think the most difficult thing we all have is time management. Right, you're going to be torn in 5,000 different ways. Just making sure you maximize your time, because the one thing nobody can buy is time. So whether that, prioritize, whether it's your family, your hobbies, and even your craft, you have to invest in all of those things that make you the best person that you are in all aspects of it. So, and if there's anything that I can personally help you with, right? It's one of the reasons why, I agreed with this, Chris, is, paying it forward to me is the ultimate of what I enjoy doing. It's why I have always, the majority of my career been in leadership. If you have a random question, if you need a mentor, if it's anything that you think I may be able to provide some kind of perspective, reach out. That's don't be shy.
And how can they reach out? How can they reach out to you?
So you can reach out to me at just jason@zanpower.us. It's just my consulting firm on the side where I help advise early stage startups. But or you can reach my cell phone too, which is fine, 949-278-2628. And, if there's anything, LinkedIn, you can look me up as well. But, by all means, those folks that are curious, that want to get better, if there's any way that I can personally help, don't be shy.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. Well, Jason, thank you for taking the time with me today. I really enjoyed the conversation. It was nice to catch up. Look forward to speaking with you soon.
You too, bud. Best of luck. Stay healthy, most importantly, bud, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks again for joining us today. To get more sales and real estate tips, you can subscribe to our newsletter at hightechfreedom.com. You can also join our private Facebook and LinkedIn group that is exclusively for sales professionals. If you found a nugget of good information in the podcast, please subscribe, give us a positive rating, and write a review. If there is a topic that you would like us to cover in the future, please send us a note through our website at hightechfreedom.com. Until next week, make this your best week ever.